Hey folks, welcome to The Artist's Craft. I'm your host STACEY.COCHRAN, and I'm thrilled to have in studio today an outstanding writer-director by the name of Dean Garris. Now, Dean won awards in art competitions throughout his scholastic career and worked as a freelance artist as a young adult. In the late 1990s, he began experimenting with audio recording and photography. By 2000, he began to combine his interest with audio recording and his passion for visual arts by making videos and short films. Dean honed his skill and knowledge of video production by working with many private and industrial clientele over the next several years. In 2008, he produced a public affairs series for the Chapel Hill and Raleigh TV markets that ran for 12 episodes. When the series wrapped, he began to focus his interest on producing his first feature-length documentary, Nathan Davis Still Lives, an award-winning documentary. His latest project is the short supernatural thriller, The Man in the Cellar. Thank you very much for joining us in studio today.
Thanks for having me, Stacy.
Well, let's first start by talking about Nathan Davis Still Lives. Tell us a little bit about the film. What is the story about?
The story is about North Carolina blues rock musician Nathan Davis. It tracks his music career, his life, and it tells the story of how after death, Nathan Davis is still alive. His music still permeates the people who knew him and loved him.
So what made you want to make this movie?
I wanted to make this movie because I really like Nathan's music. And what I was looking for was a story that really had a heart to it, and something that was local. You know, something that I could film that was showcasing an artist or a musician that many people hadn't heard about yet.
You say that you wanted to tell a story that had heart. What was it about Nathan Davis, about his story and about his music, that makes him different, that shows that passion and that heart?
I think that he wore his heart on his sleeve. And he was brutally honest with his lyrics. And his family is just absolutely incredible, his mom and dad. And they, are his biggest fans. And I think that was a big part of what the heart in the story was for me.
Very cool. So how did you first learn or hear about Nathan's music?
In 2001, I was doing a video promo of a band in Southern Pines. And Nathan was a part of that band. He was the guitarist and the singer. And thought he was fantastic. I was, dumbfounded as to why this guy was playing, small bars in Southern Pines. I had run into him a couple times since then over the years. I saw him play at the Six String Cafe in Cary. And I was posting this video online in 2009. And I found out on his MySpace page that he passed away. And I contacted the MySpace administrator, who turned out to be his mother. And she was telling me the whole story about how they keep his website running. And it was just touching.
I can imagine. So how did you go about researching? What was the research process like to give you a good sense of what story you wanted to tell and who to interview?
I went online. I spent quite a few months online. I dug up everything I could find on Nathan Davis online. Went through every MySpace page message that had been left, since his death. And I searched everybody that seemed like they were a friend of his to find out what their story was. And then I, kind of was able to build my, my list of who I wanted to interview and started to put together Nathan's story structure, what events I wanted to focus on. So that was really how the process began. And, it took a little while for his mom and dad to really be on board, but as soon as they were on board, it was easier.
How did you convince them that you were, a good person to do this documentary? Did you show them other films or other work that you'd done? Did you just meet with them and win them over that way?
We chatted. Me and Sally chatted a lot over the course of a few months, and they had about 60 hours of raw video that a videographer had shot of Nathan, and they wanted to do something with it. So I said, well, let me take the video. I'll edit it. And I did basic edits of the entire 60 hours, sent those to them on DVD. I think once they saw that, they knew that I was for real, that I wasn't going to run off with their footage.
Sure. Well, the guest is Nathan Davis. The film that we're talking about here today is the guest is Dean Garris. I'm sorry. Don't want to screw that up. The guest is Dean Garris. The film that he has made is Nathan Davis Still Lives. You can find out about that at nathandavismovie.com, the website there. So how integral was Nathan's parents? It sounds like they were an important part. They had this footage, but once you started editing that footage together, how much feedback did you get from them, and how were you collaborating with them, would you say?
I wasn't really collaborating with them. They were not a part of the film. They were helping me find out who I needed to talk to, and they were on board as far as allowing me access. But it was really the research I had done, and then talking to Sally to find out where to go. And the original story that I wanted to tell was I wanted to follow one of your other guests, John Custer. Mm-hmm. I wanted to follow him in his studio while he finished up Nathan's last album, Revolution Lane. And it was just really difficult to get a hold of John, so about midstream in 2009, I decided to start shooting and interviewing folks as a biopic. So then when I was wrapping up the interviews about September in 2009, I went out to Kentucky to interview Dave and Sally, and brought some footage that I'd already shot and edited, and I also brought a video that I had edited together, the Nickels and Dimes video. Mm-hmm. And once they saw that, they were fully on board at that point.
Very cool. I've got a couple more questions here, and then we want to roll the trailer for Nathan Davis Still Lives. Again, the guest is Dean Garris. The movie is Nathan Davis Still Lives. So how many interviews did you do for the film?
How many interviews? Probably about 20, around that mark. Mm-hmm. There were some interviews I did that didn't make it in just because of time constraints and where I was going with the story. Dave and Sally were a good interview. I think my personal favorite interview of the entire thing was a guy by the name of Marshall Lewis. Mm-hmm. For 2 hours he took me on a tour of Southern Pines, and I just followed him with my camera. So a lot of great stuff I wanted to include in the film, but just didn't have room.
Very cool. So how many hours of footage did you shoot altogether?
I would say I was probably up around 60 or 70 hours that I shot.
And then you had the 60 that Dave and Sally had?
Yeah, the 60 from the raw Roger Flake footage, and then there was miscellaneous footage from VHS tapes and other sources.
Very cool. Again, the guest is Dean Garris. The film that we're talking about is Nathan Davis Still Lives. And we're going to watch a clip of it here on The Artist's Craft. I'm your host, Stacey Cochran, so let's roll the trailer.
I don't remember a time when I really remember not being interested in music in one way, shape, or form, you know.
In every college town in America, there's a guy pretending to be the alternative songwriting darling. Nathan, he was the real deal.
It was that chemical, mystical, unquantifiable thing that he had around him.
The air was electric, and we couldn't move. And then he launched into it. It was like the stage exploded. We couldn't understand what this guy was doing there.
Nathan sort of stumbled around during the day, running into walls, until you showed him the stage at night, and he became alive.
Okay.
Get that out of my face!
He was a wild one.
'Cause if my time on earth was through, I'd win in heaven for a girl like you.
A lot of my material, they were not going to play it on the radio, and it's pretty hard to listen to sometimes. You know, it's not pretty.
Music was about the battle.
There's a lot of joy and emotion in it, but there's also a lot of pain and a goodbye.
In all of those lyrics, he's practically screaming that, you know, I will not be an old man with a gray beard.
I'm not going to do anything that's going to compromise what I do as an artist.
Talking about Nathan's music,
It was like dancing about architecture.
There was so much life and energy in it, and you just couldn't imagine that being gone.
You know, you can live 100 years and leave nothing, and you can never take those chances, and he took them every single day.
His story is almost bigger than him.
The whole world should have known who Nathan Davis was.
So that is Nathan Davis Still Lives, directed by Dean Garris, who we have in studio with us today. So it's beginning to make the film festival circuits. Dean, which film festivals are you getting Nathan Davis Still Lives into?
Well, about 2 weeks ago we had our world premiere at the Myrtle Beach International Film Festival. It's run by Jerry Dalton of Dalton Pictures, and it was just a great festival. It won an honorary mention award. And then last weekend it was at the Cape Fear Independent Film Festival, and it was nominated for Best Feature, Best Documentary, and won a Director's Choice Award. And just a great bunch of folks down there in Cape Fear, in Wilmington.
That's got to be pretty cool to actually have it screened. What kind of audiences were you drawing for the screenings at these? And what is that experience like as a director? Is it nerve-wracking? Is it kind of a relief to see audiences respond to it?
Well, last year we had a cast and crew screening, and I was running that, so it was very nerve-wracking to make sure that the film ran properly on the projector. At the film festival, it's a little easier because it's not my job to make sure that it's running right. But it's great when somebody who doesn't know anything about Nathan, doesn't know anything about the movie, watches it and is touched by it. There were some people that felt moved by the story, and that's great for me. It's just validation that I picked a great story and was able to tell it correctly.
So how do you, as a director, how do you make decisions about which film festivals to screen it at? Tell us a little bit about that process for the aspiring filmmaker out there, independent filmmaker. What advice would you give to them about how you select which festivals to submit the work to, and is there any secrets to getting accepted?
If there are secrets, I wish somebody would let me know what it is. I think the most important thing you can do as a filmmaker is to create a festival strategy. Know what films you want to play at, where you want your film to play first, and then build from there. If you know you want to get into one of the bigger film festivals, don't submit it to one of the smaller ones that comes before it. I mean, it's pretty cookie cutter. So that was my plan, and I know a lot of folks who've been wanting to see the movie have been waiting for a while, but I have to stick the film to the festival strategy I put in place.
So what festivals do you have coming up that you're anticipating getting into or would like to get into? Let's say it that way.
Yeah, it's hard for me to answer that because I don't want to jinx myself, but there's a few coming up that I would like to get into. Hopefully some more on the East Coast, and then a couple out west.
Very cool. Again, the guest is Dean Garris. The film is Nathan Davis Still Lives. You are watching The Artist Craft. I'm your host, Stacey Cochran, talking a little bit about the film. So let's get into the process of making a movie. This interview will make its way online, and I'm sure there'll be some aspiring filmmakers out there watching this. So take us through your film editing process. It sounds like you edited some of that footage that Dave and Sally had, but once you started shooting your own principal photography, do you edit as you go along? Do you do sequences as you go along, or do you wait until you say, okay, I've got 60 hours worth of footage, now I'll start editing it?
Well, for me, I like to edit as I go along. On a documentary, it's different than on a narrative film. Because in a narrative film, you really have to edit after the process. But with a documentary, even your best laid plans of how you want the story to work, it could twist and turn. So what I like to do is, for Nathan Davis Still Lives, I went in and started editing the interviews after I shot them, doing some basic edits. I know that there were things I wanted to remove, like my voice or me asking questions, so I just went in and started removing that. That gave me a good idea of what I had and what I still needed to get.
I want to ask a couple more questions, and then I want to roll a longer clip from the actual film itself, not the trailer, but a 3-minute clip from the actual movie, Nathan Davis Still Lives. But first, a couple of questions. Talking about structure, how how did you structure the film? How did you organize it? You've got all this footage. It can be a little bit overwhelming, I'm sure. What did you say, or how did you, Dean, say to yourself how you wanted to organize the film from beginning to end?
During the production, shooting the interviews, I organized it very linear. Nathan was born here, he went here, 25, 26. That's how I did the interview process. I knew that that's not how the film was going to play. I wanted it to be a lot more of a non-linear structure. And the reason I did that for Nathan Davis Still Lives is because I want people to get to know who Nathan is before I start introducing different things that happen in his life. So it's like I'm peeling back different layers. And hopefully by the end of the film, I've peeled back enough layers and you're so deep that I can peel back those really thick layers.
It's very cool. Yeah, I think, you know, the structure that you're talking about where you kind of start with people's first impressions of him and then, you know, you kind of follow his career and his development from a young man and even a kid at the very beginning. His first time playing music as a teen, you know, all the way until the end of his life. And then I guess one of the major themes of the film is beyond,
right?
That the music still does live. One more question and then we'll roll this longer clip from chapter 11 of the movie Nathan Davis Still Lives. What do you think drove Nathan?
I think that Nathan shared an inside joke with the devil. He knew something nobody else knew. And I think a lot of artists who are driven to the point where they eat, breathe, sleep their art share some kind of joke. They know something that the rest of us don't. And I think Nathan had that. And I think that's why people gravitated toward him in his life and why his music continues to live.
The guest is Dean Garris. The movie is Nathan Davis Still Lives. I've seen it. My wife has seen it. Got the seal of approval from the wife, so you know it's got to be great. So we're going to watch a 3-minute clip from the movie here, actually featuring Nathan Davis singing, I believe it's Carolina Sky. So let's roll that clip.
Play guitar at a gig, and he kind of threw together this last-minute band. And it was Ivan Hampton on drums and Derek Arnold on bass and me. And since I've been producing him, I knew the songs.
I feel like hating everyone but you. You've always come to my defense. And people see a part of me that never needs to have anyone around. And up until the day I found you, babe, I found peace in shadow, sweat, and sound. So forget about your troubles and forget about the lies, yeah. The only thing that matters now is you and me in this Carolina sky. Trouble comes in threes, they say, but let them come, I'm not afraid to stand. As long as I got you beside me, and pride inside and a guitar in my hand. 'Cause I got something burning in me, baby, something this whole world can't take away. And I'll be playing long after I'm gone, Lord, I'll be singing from my grave.
When we walked off the stage, we all knew that the recordings that we'd just been doing were now obsolete. because this was so much more aggressive, so much more Nathan. He said to me, now that I know that this is possible, we can't go back. I said, well, you know, unfortunately I agree. I did agree. It was tough because we were taking a lot of time to get these recordings done, but his game kept elevating so quickly. So he said, look man, I want to get a live band together. We tried to construct a band.
So there you have it. That's Nathan Davis Still Lives, or a clip from the movie Nathan Davis Still Lives. We're joined in studio today by director Dean Garris, who produced, directed the film. So how did you first get into making films and doing videography? What kind of led you in that direction?
Well, when I was a kid, I was an artist, and I loved to draw, loved pictures, very visual kind of kid. And we always had a video camera around, so me and my sisters would do little skit videos and stuff. So that's really where it began, and you know, around 2000, early 90s, I started getting a little more serious with it, seeing what I could do, how well I could marry it with visual arts that I liked.
Very cool. I want to ask you one question about the supernatural thriller that you're working on, or just about done with, it sounds like. And then we're going to roll a clip from that, from The Man in the Cellar. We'll roll the trailer from that in a minute or so here. So what can you tell us about your short film, The Man in the Cellar?
Well, it stars Alex Wilson, Jennifer Rosselli, and Tate Clemens, wonderful local actors. I was very lucky to get them for this project, and what I was trying to do, me and my producer Chip Lafayette, was to create a pitch video, something that we could sell ourselves with. And so that is completely finished. I'm getting ready to start sending that to festivals and to use it as kind of a calling card. Very cool. Again, the guest is Dean Garris. We've been talking primarily about Nathan Davis Still Lives, his documentary, but he is getting set to, as you just heard, release The Man in the Cellar to film festivals. And so I want to watch the trailer for that. Again, the trailer is for supernatural short film, The Man in the Cellar. So let's roll the clip from that.
No Leapaseri, Papa.
Who are you talking to there, Pumpkin?
The man in the cellar.
Has Mona ever mentioned a play friend to you, like an imaginary friend?
She's 5, Jack. She talks to all her stuffed animals. Pick one.
I heard noises.
Mona, there's no one down in the cellar. Come on, Jack. You're just being paranoid.
Don't go down the cellar, Daddy. He's waiting for you down there. Mommy? How did your dream end? Jack.
Whoa, so there you have it. I love that clip where the door pulls shut. I gotta tell you, the first time I saw it, that kind of gave me the chills the right way.
Good, you know? Yeah. There's a couple more like that.
I can't wait to see it. So how did you first conceive of The Man in the Cellar?
Well, that short film was inspired by a quote, Friedrich Nietzsche. And the quote is, you know, battle not with monsters, lest you become a monster, and if you gaze into the abyss gazes into you. And so I wanted to film that quote. So I kind of was inspired by a few short stories I'd read online, you know, horror stories, and kind of formed them into this script that I could shoot with no budget quickly. So that's the genesis of that film.
It's very cool. Again, our guest is Dean Garris. The film that we've just watched a clip for there is The Man in the Cellar. You were watching The Artist's Craft. I'm your host, Stacey Cochran. We've got just a couple of more minutes or so here. So talk to me about your writing process. You said you wrote the script for this. You had this quote that was kind of an inspiration for it. How long did it take to write? And then
it took me about 30 days to write that, and my inspiration really just comes from seeing the movie. I'm very visual, so I see the movie in my head, and then all I'm basically doing is recording down what I see and hear. And then once I get that, I start refining it out a little bit, and then put it into a script form. So it's very much visual. If I can't see the movie in my head, then I have no interest in making it.
Now, how did filming Nathan Davis Still Lives, editing, this full-length, feature-length documentary prepare you for filming a narrative film?
How did it prepare me? Well, I had a lot of equipment failures on Nathan Davis Still Lives. It's funny, the thing I'm most embarrassed about with the film is that John Custer, is mic'd up with 2 mics. And I was having a bad mic day. I couldn't figure out which mic was shorting out. So I wanted to get his interview, so I mic'd him up with 2 mics. So for The Man in the Cellar, I bought new microphones and made sure that the batteries are fresh each day. So I think it's more just technical things that I was on the lookout for when I did The Man in the Cellar.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit about the differences between producing and directing. You're doing a lot of that yourself for both of those roles. So are you able to separate the 2 different roles? Would you prefer to separate the 2 roles and have someone else produce?
Absolutely. I would love to hook up with a producer that was on the ball, and I could just focus on the creative aspects of directing or screenwriting. So if there's any producers watching out there that are interested in hooking up.
There you go. How about editing the film? We're coming down to our last minute or so here. How was the editing similar or different for this shorter film, the narrative film, than it was for the documentary?
The narrative short was a piece of cake compared to Nathan Davis Still Lives, because for a documentary, you're directing the film in the editing bay. You could shoot all the footage you want, but you don't know how that film is going to come together until you're editing it, and you have to edit so many different ways. With a narrative short, you have a script, and you've shot certain scenes to flow into certain ones, so a lot easier.
Awesome. Well, the guest is Dean Garris. The 2 films we've been talking about here today are Nathan Davis Still Lives, a documentary about musician Nathan Davis, who sadly is no longer with us, and then his latest film, Dean's latest film, The Man in the Cellar, which is going to be making the film festival circuit everywhere soon, so check it out. Dean, thank you very much for joining us in studio.
Thanks for having me, Stacey.
And I look forward to seeing your film career continue to develop. I can't wait to watch The Man in the Cellar. I love those kind of movies. So thank you very much. For all of us here at The Artist's Craft, Michael and Marnie rocking it back there with the clips today, and the folks over in Master Control, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks so much. So we should roll credits. And there you go. TV interview in the book.